Hello everyone, I'm Pierre bringing you another Node.js tutorial. In this one, we're going to be making a very simple login server. It's a start for how you would do it on a real web page. It's not totally finished for that purpose, but it's a good start. You will notice that I already have a file open, and it's called secret.json, and in there I've basically just made a list of users, and I've given each user a name, a password, and a nickname. So we're going to use that as our credentials for the login. Normally you would use a database for this, but for our purposes this is fine. So I'm going to create my package.json. And I'm going to name it login server. Main is still going to be server.js, and our scripts are still going to be the same too because we still have a client-server pair. And node client.js. Then client is node client.js. Okay. Now to make the server, I'm going to install Express. And then I'm going to install body parser too because I want to use post parser. Okay, now we're going to make our server.json, not JSON, JS. Server.js. We're going to have our express as per usual. And our body parser, just like before. But we're also going to have a var called secret. And in this case, I'm going to be getting an import for my JSON file right here. So I use / to say this is my local folder. If I use .. it'll be up one. If I put some more path here, it'll go there. But right now we just want in the same folder, so I'm going to do that, secret.json. And then var server equals express. And server.use body parser dot URL encoded extended false. And server.use body parser.json. Okay, now we're going to actually set up our server to do post. I'm going to say for login instead of just the slash. So in this case, you would go to localhost port 3000 /login as opposed to just the regular one. So function request response. We're going to say var user equals request.body.username. Var password equals request.body.password. And var info equals secret.users. And then we're going to check for our username here. If you notice, we have users right here as our main object, and then inside is the 3 smaller objects. So we're going to be trying to find one of these, and if we don't, if they've given us something that we don't have one of, then we're going to get an undefined. And so we need to check for that. If info does not equal undefined, and we also have to have the right password. Password equals or is equivalent to info.password. In this case, we have success. And we are going to say user logged in. And then we are going to res.send welcome, and we will call them by their nickname. Else, we have a failure for some reason. Plus attempted to log in and failed. Send failed login attempt. Okay. Now we have to actually listen. Listen on port 3000 again. Express login server listening on port 3000. Okay. Now to make our client, I want request again, so I'm going to install it. Okay, so now I'm going to make my client. We are going to have var request again. And we are also going to have something I'm going to call creds for credentials. It's going to be an object with a username of default, which will not hit any of our actual usernames, and a password of none. So in order to be able to put in any username and password you want, I can't just fill this in right here with, you know, actual credentials. What I need to do is I need to get command line arguments again. So I'm going to say var args equals process.argv.slice2 again. We're going to say if args.length is greater than or equal to 2. If it's big enough, if we have enough arguments, we're going to say creds.username equals args0 and creds.password equals args1. Now that we have possibly gotten our credentials in order, we're going to make our request. Post URL, in this case it's localhost port 3000 /login. That part's very important. If you don't do that, then the server will still be running, but it won't give you anything back because it never bound anything to go for the regular post without the login / part. Okay, JSON true, and our body in this case is going to be creds. So now we have our regular callback function. Error response body. Just like before, if there's no error and response.status code equals 200, then we're going to log the body again. And that's it. Okay, so let's try running it and see what happens. npm start. Okay, default attempted to log in and failed. So this makes sense because we ran over here, we ran node client.js with no command line arguments. So in that case, args.length would not be 2 or greater, and we would not update this. We would use the default. And we don't have a default, so of course we have a failed login attempt. Now let's see what happens if I actually give it some real creds. Victoria and Butler's Rule 1. Welcome the Butlerette, which is in fact Victoria's nickname. And our server says Victoria logged in. Now let's see what happens if I give it some fake gobbledygook. npm run client blah blah, and then I'm going to actually put my name in there and password. And if we look at the secret.js, this is actually correct credentials here. But they're going to be ignored because we're only looking at these two here. It doesn't look at any other command line arguments that you're given. And as you will see, we get a failed login attempt. So when you're doing command line argument parsing, be very careful that you're getting the right ones. And that you specify what behavior you want. In this case, we are ignoring extraneous command line arguments. But you can do it any way you want. And so let's see if I can log in normally. Client. Okay, there I am. Welcome emp. And I logged in. So as you can see, we've managed to create a login server, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.